In communist China, the state controls around 28% of the economy. In Britain, the state controls 53% of the economy. The public sector spends more than the private sector in Britain, doesn't it?
Well, the public sector is an important part of our economy, of course, yes.
The public sector is bigger than the private sector now, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the two are mutually... The two parts of the economy depend on each other, don't they?
Well, I mean, the public sector certainly depends on the private sector. I mean, it's debatable how much the private sector depends on the public sector.
The last government tested to destruction the idea that more spending was the answer.
But you're taking money out of the productive economy, and then you say you spend a little money of that money back in the productive economy. How is that stimulating?
Politicians keep talking about what they're going to spend, as though it's their money. They haven't got any of their own money. They've got our money.
You have to remember that when the government creates a job by taxing more, it's destroying jobs elsewhere by the act of taxation.
The government is spending over 50% of national income this year. You can't tax 50% of total national income just by taxing rich people. There aren't enough of them and they don't earn enough money.
It is estimated that the state now accounts for more than 60% of the economy in Scotland. In the North East, it's 73%. In Wales, it's 77%. And in Northern Ireland, the state accounts for a staggering 81% of the economy.
When you've got to 70% of GDP public sector, that's worse even than what you had in a lot of Eastern European countries in the 1980s, when these countries were officially communist.
One of the problems with government when it gets very large is that there's a vast number of interest groups who are feeding from the public trough.
When are we actually going to realise that a growing state sector doesn't work? 55%? 60%? 65%? How much of the economy have our political classes got to control until we say enough?
The idea that we need state monopolies in order to look after the poor is obviously untrue. We make sure poor people in Britain have shoes and clothes and food, but we don't have state shoe shops and state clothes shops and government canteens. Can you imagine how awful that would be? People say you can't possibly privatise health and education because private firms will be in it to make a profit. But we're surrounded by wonderful things made by companies who need to make a profit. Do we say, we can't have a washing machine made by Bosch or Zanussi because they make a profit? Much better to have a washing machine made by the state. Let's not get a Toyota, they're in it for the money. Much wiser to wait in a queue for a government-made Trabant.